Okay, Virgo. So, since you guys didn't get a reading last week, like Cancer, Leo, and everybody else except, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, about time you finally get one, huh? Yeah. You can go ahead and, tear me to shreds if you want to. Just not the face, okay? So, anyway, the way that my readings work is every sign, obviously, is going to get three Dark Goddess Oracle cards. There's the deck, by the way. The first goddess to come out is the one in power, the one that favors you, the one that's going to help you the most this week. The second one is the one you must seek out or take on the qualities of that goddess to better help you this week. If she'll be so kind to unhand herself. And then the last to emerge is the goddess that's telling you, you know what? I absolutely love you to death, but you keep forgetting this thing, and I thought you knew about it. So just please remind me that you didn't forget it. In other words, this is the lesson or the quality you have to remember to use to your full gain. Okay, so Goddess in Power. We have Cerdin for inspiration. And if I'm correct, Cerdin was a Welsh goddess, if I'm correct. She. Because what I'm really getting from this, if I remember correctly, and I'm just trying to really. Oh, wait a minute. I think she was Welsh. Either way. Um, she is trying to have you believe to have the more positive outlook on this life, and she's going to help you be able to start seeing the good in things, even though it's been like a little bit of a Debbie Downer. Because I remember correctly, she had a son who she wanted to help his skills and his skill set, but her servant or her assistant accidentally drank the potion that she was going to give to her son to cure the ailment he had. So when that happened, she, I believe, cursed him and then, ate him. I believe I'm not entirely sure, but the whole idea is that this week things that are kind of a little hard to see in the positive light, they're going to become much more simpler to notice. If that makes sense. You must seek out DT for revenge. In this situation, probably what I'm getting from this is that even though if you have the urge to be extremely vengeful and spiteful towards somebody, if it must be done in order for you to get what you need, and if it's going to bring you the security you need, if you have to do this in order to teach a harsh lesson, because sometimes the best harsh lesson is to get vengeance on someone. I'm not one of those people, and I'm not one of those readers that's kind of like, oh, happy, woohoo, everybody love each other. Nope, I'm one of those that's like, if somebody's stupid, you can go ahead and stab them. Go ahead and stab them. Or, just hit them upside the head. Because if somebody isn't taught the lesson that they need to be taught, how do you know that they're going to do one thing to you and then do that same thing to somebody else until you step in and you're the one that whacks someone? So possibly be on the alert if you need to take vengeance out on somebody, or if you actually have a very explosive mindset and an explosive way of acting out. Be a little bit more mindful towards that. Other than that, if it's going to be a vengeance that's going to teach somebody a harsh lesson, then have at it. Just make sure you get them in the family jewels if you catch my drift. You mustn't forget Mauve for determination. Now, Mauve, from what I know, is a goddess that pretty much made every man that came towards her become a little puppy. To the point where they're like, oh, Mauve, I'll do anything you want me to. Yeah, because she was just that potent and strong of a feisty of a goddess. So I'm getting the strong indication to remember your true worth, and that you have enough will potential to make anybody be a little bit more capable and a little bit more easier to work with you and make things a lot more smoother, even if you have to, table flip on them. So those are your goddesses for this week: Cerdin, Diti, and Moav. And the spread that's going to be used is an basic elemental cross spread. And the spirit and the ether position is going to be your goddesses. And then after we get the cross laid out, then we're going to be looking at your 3 advice cards for the week. And so that way you know what deck I'm using. I'm using the Universal Celtic Tarot. So regarding your earth sector, regarding your financials, your health, your sense of security, gains, and the ability to provide for others and the whatnot. We have, that's a good one. We have the 9 of Pentacles. In this depiction, we have a woman in white. Her eyes are closed, and she appears to be in a valley of green, and the sunlight behind her, and her hair is going up. And she appears to be in a state of perfectness, if that's even a word. But this week, expect yourself to be fully secure, very healthy, and expect to have any ailments or diseases that you've been combating, expect them to be much weaker and being able to fade away. And also financially, you actually might be a lot more stable this week, and your finances will go up substantially. And if there's also any indication that you are actually providing security for somebody else, you actually become a strong, grounded figure to be able to provide for them 100% and not have any drawback on you. So regarding now your air sector, communications, intelligence, and pretty much interacting with other people, and educational pursuits, we have the Knight of Cups. So expect this week somebody, or even you, to come towards you like a very, very cheesy, sweet-talking, romantic way. And also, you might actually consider about taking educational pursuits regarding to actually how to interact with people more, to improve your communications with people, or even take a simple course or hear a lecture about how to use your words in a more effective, gentle way, if that makes sense. But the whole idea is actually trying to actually learn a way to communicate much simpler and more effectively, but also in a way that actually is more nurturing and more supportive. And also you might actually go towards somebody and try and woozy woo them this week. Which either way, if you get inspired to do it, yep, there's Cerdin for you. Just go ahead and go for it. Just make sure that you don't speak hastily. Just speak with more of a noble tone and a noble word choice, if that makes sense. The fire sector, what it's going to give you zest of life this week. What's going to, well, we got the card already. What's going to bring you zest of life or an obstacle? We have the strength card, and if I'm correct, this is the Bear Goddess RTO, if I'm correct. So what I'm getting this week is you have enough self-control, but also knowing of how much energy you can exert. Probably your challenge this week is going to be able to really push the limits of that fire and that eagerness and that willpower you have. The challenge is to try and see if you can actually push it to another level, but also at the same time know when you have reached your limit with the power so you don't burn out. But also, if you're going to be, again, seeking out vengeance on somebody, make sure you get to the point where, okay, they learned a lesson, I don't need to rip off their face anymore. Or, if you have to rip off the face, well, I mean, that person shouldn't have been stupid now, shouldn't they? But the whole idea is to make sure you understand the whole idea of knowing how much your limits are. And if you know your limits, try to increase your limits slightly, not too much. Because over time, the more you work a muscle, the stronger it gets. So then now regarding the emotional sector, the cheesy stuff, the woozy woo sector, the part where everybody is just like, oh Romeo, Romeo. Okay, this is where it's going to get a little bit different. You got the Queen of Sass, or the Queen of Swords, but in this deck, she is far different. In the way that I read the Queen of Swords in this deck, is that, as you see, she is an ice queen, and she's sitting on an ice throne playing her harpsichord, and she has a sword stuck in the ice. How I see the ice is this. Regarding your emotions this week, you're going to be tested. You're going to be tested to see how committed and devoted you are towards something. Because with water, water flows. It ebbs and flows. When water is frozen, solid, and stuck like that, it doesn't change. It doesn't move. Nothing happens to it. It stays constant until it melts. Until it melts, what's inside of it never changes. It stays the same. There's nothing you can do to change the inside. But what about if I just start whacking it? Well, if you start whacking it, yeah, you're damaging the outside barrier protecting it. You're still not hitting what's inside of the ice. If that makes sense, if that's kind of clear enough for you. But the whole idea is that this week you're going to be tested to see about how committed and devoted you are to someone or somebody else, and also how devoted you are to spirit and the divinity or your intuitive abilities. You're going to be tested to see if how strong your devotion is and how committed you are to it. Now regarding your advice this week. Advice number 1 is Knight of Wands, which is funny because this is the only deck I have that has a unicorn in it. So we have Knight of Twigs, Seven of Pentacles, and the Sun. Now this just turned out to be very lovely all of a sudden. Okay, so. Okay. In this depiction of the Seven of Pentacles, we have a little child being woozy-wooed by a bunch of goblins. So your advice is, don't be easily woozy-wooed and don't be naive this week. Don't believe every little thing that's going around you. Stay the course and stay focused and keep your drive going in the direction where it needs to go to. And that's when you're going to find your... I'm going to just take a shot in the dark. That's when you're going to find your white stag, if that makes sense. Because I know in Celtic mythology, the white stag is revered as a very important figure. But, again, make sure that you're in check and make sure that you're not going to be easily distracted and woozy-wooed off the wrong way. And keep your inspiration and your drive and vigor in the direction to where it's going to bring you the most gain, the most wealth, and the most reputable gains, if that makes sense. Because other than that, really, that's what I got. It's actually a really good reading. Just make sure that whoever you're going towards to, hit upside the head, just make sure that you understand the limits of, how hard you hit them with the blunt stick. That's pretty much it. But if you don't feel like you need to hit someone upside the head, well, more power to you. So that's what I got for you, Virgo. I'll see you next week.